Money can't buy happiness, but if you do enough back-breaking farming, you can buy a Mageblood, an Outdoors Legacy, and a few other upgrades that takes our Unarmed Fire Monk into the next level. This is Kenny17, back again with another update on our previous Unarmed Martial Breaker Fire Monk. This time around, we didn't just give our Fire Monk a minor polish, we threw a ton of divines towards a healthy build foundation, and turned him into an endgame beast with more than 60k evasion rating, 95% deflection chance, and enough damage to rip through the toughest of mobs in the game. As usual, I hope you're enjoying some absolutely wild juiced out 8-mod corrupted T16 maps with 3 Deli tablets at 200% delirium. And we'll talk about the build details later. Cheers! Welcome back, and I hope you've enjoyed the longer than usual montage. As you can see, the build now performs much better than previously. 2 things to call out before I dive into the details. First, this is a Facebreaker Holopalm Martial Artist Ascendancy build, which is kind of a mouthful, where we focus on fire damage and intelligent scaling. There are more nuances than just pure intel stacking here, so I do encourage you to watch the previous video if you're new to this build, which will be linked in the description. Second, the previous version took about 60 to 100 divines to get online and gets you through to 200% delirium T16 maps. This version, however, sits closer to 1,000 divine in budget. Getting to this level definitely requires some dedicated farming sessions, whether you're grinding out Chaos Trials, Alkengo Grand Expeditions, or even Ritual Omen farming. So treat this version as an endgame aspirational target, with the previous video more as a stepping stone. With that being said, the key upgrades we made for this version include, amongst other things, Mageblood and Legacy of Greymake. These 2 items not only improves our character's offense and defense, they also alleviate a lot of pressures on the gearing and the passive tree, which in turn allows us to improve our build further by switching our investment elsewhere, like a domino effect. At a glance for the character sheet comparison, we've been able to, number 1, more than double our tooltip DPS in the hideout, with even more increased damage during combat due to things such as our Rite of Passage charm. Number 2, roughly double our evasion rating from about 32k to more than 60k, owing mostly to our Legacy of Jade, along with the additional 100 increase to intelligence stacking. Number 3, max out our deflection chance to 95% with a roughly 30k deflection rating, all the while not taking up too many of the deflection gain as percent of evasion suffix on gears, due to our innately high evasion rating, which then opens up gear suffix for other options that we'll discuss later. Going into the upgrade details, let's start with Mageblood, which replaces our previous Ingenuity belt. Mageblood has strong synergy with our builds, especially with the following legacies. First, Legacy of Jade provides a massive flat evasion rating. Since our build already stacks heavily into percent increased evasion via intelligence scaling from Nightly Tenants and Winter Owl, this flat evasion boost acts multiplicatively, single-handedly pushing our total evasion rating from around 32k all the way to just a bit south of 60k. Second, Legacy of Sulfur gives us a 60% increased damage, which again acts multiplicatively with our damage scaling, because most of our damage source comes from intel scaling, which gives us gain damage as extra fire. This legacy gives us a good damage boost without hitting the diminishing return regime of increased damage. Lastly, Legacy of Bismuth helps cap our elemental resistances and alleviate suffix requirements on gears. This allows us to take increased crit chance on our Helm for suffix, as well as decreased critical hit damage suffix on our armor for further tankiness in the endgame. Arguments can be made for a few other legacies, such as Amethyst, Silver, or Quicksilver for Chaos Resist, Skill Speed, and Movement Speed increase respectively, but it'll depend on your own preference as well as your budget range, since some legacy combination will be more expensive than others. Next up is Legacy of Greymake, which is the combination of Alder's Legacy specifically slotted into the Greymake unique. Getting that flat plus 50 to all attributes is very significant. This bonus pushes our total intelligence up for Facebreaker fire damage and increased percentage of evasion, but more importantly, significantly contributes to all of our strength and dexterity support gem requirements. With this, we can spec out of Beef and Proficiency, respectively on the passive tree, and allow us to take some other better notable, such as Crush and Verdict, and Fulmination without annoyance. A few other key callouts in the gearing side includes a roughly 250 Divine Helmet. Specifically, we're looking for a 2 augment slot Uncorrupted Helm. We'll need both slots for Legacy of Greymake and Raven Touch Shard, and we'll need this to be uncorrupted so we can anoint the appropriate notable for our build. This is important since a corrupted helm will not allow anoint changes, so definitely keep this in mind. Additionally, given that we have Raven Touch Shard on the helmet side, we anoint Trained Deflection, along with Zarkov's Gift on the amulet anoint for further tankiness. Note that we're able to max out our deflection rating, which is about 30k, very easily due to our high evasion rating. Given this, being able to reduce deflected damage by 46% from Trained Deflection notable instead of the original 40% is very significant. Two more quick call out on the passive tree for unique jewels. If you have budget and time, feel free to find an Oroth Heroic Tragedy jewel that has a rough 3,000 to 4,000 seed range. My limited testing has shown that this increases the chance of having a Scorched Earth notable available for allocation within the jewel radius, which also significantly increases our character power and is a great fit for our build. In addition, do feel free to browse through the Megalomaniac jewels available to see what's out there. Polymathy notable is crucial to our build, but pathing over will take quite a bit of passive investments. Therefore, I do recommend a Megalo with it allocated. And if we're going to take a Megalomaniac anyways, I do recommend combining Polymathy with either Fulmination, Incendiary, Blazing Arms, or even Sigil Fire for further damage since we're going to be igniting enemies very regularly. Finally, I want to call out an interesting weapon set option that comes down to personal playstyle preference. Currently, I'm running a Talisman on my second weapon set, which allows me access to the Rend skill. This skill, when used in conjunction with power charges, will give you a significant 50% damage gain as extra lightning. This will help a lot during both bossing and mapping. Do know, however, that there is currently a bug with this skill in combination with either Wind Projectile, Staggering Palm, or Charged Staff. Essentially, make sure you get the Rend buff first via weapon swap before turning on the projectile or the Charged Staff, otherwise the projectile buff will not function even if you have the status bar counting down on the left side. However, if you are not interested in messing with said interaction because of the bug and looking for something a bit more bossing specific, you can definitely swap to a Spear Shield setup or weapon set 2 combined with Refutation. During bossing, just make sure you hold down the parry button with words available to get a parry up, and then the boss will be debuffed with a take 50% more damage, which, funny enough, is multiplicative to things even like Shock and Wither, and honestly, comically overpowered. Make sure you also have Duncan Hall Shield when you can to further increase that debuff magnitude. Stepping back from the mechanics for a moment, recall that at the end of the day, the single most important mindset when playing POE2 is to make sure that you're actually having fun. When you look at a build like this that costs close to 1,000 divines, it's easy to feel like you need to treat the game like a second job just to make progress. But honestly, if farming turns into a chore, then I'd argue that the whole point of playing video game in the first place goes out the window. When I was farming towards those big ticket uniques like Mageblood or Aldor's Legacy, I felt the key was breaking that goal down into manageable daily portions. Pick whatever content of farming strategy you genuinely enjoy, whether that's simple Alch and Go Grand Expeditions, Chaos Trials, or Ritual Omens, and just enjoy every mapping session. There's no push. Put on an audiobook or a podcast in the background, throw on some music on Spotify, and play at your own pace. With a bit of luck, and before you know it, you'll have exactly what you need. For me personally, it's been roughly a bit over 2 weeks since my last video to this one, and I've been able to farm close to 1,000 divines to fund these upgrades that you're seeing at about a 1 to 2 hour play session per day. So with a bit of patience and enjoying the process, you'll get there before you know it. And also, I will admit that I did get a bit of a lucky break here and there, hitting a Mageblood in the Ritual Trials, as well as a few Aldor's Saga during those 2 weeks of farming. So overall, if this build feels too overwhelming to try, but you still want to build something similar in this vein, do feel free to refer to the previous video where everything totaled to around 60 to 100 divine, and it handles endgame contents reliably and lets you enjoy the build right now, while these high-tier upgrades can remain as fun, long-term goals to chip away over time. That about wraps up everything I wanted to share for this late endgame evolution of our unarmed Martial Breaker Fire Monk. To take this build even further, we're getting in the nitty-gritty of best in slot for each gear piece, as well as needing to get close to perfect 5 affix jewels across the board, costing us about hundreds of divine each. Currently, I have no plans to continue improving this build, but it's definitely something that you can do if interested. Overall, I'm really happy with how the build turned out. It's adequately fast, tanky, and handles high-end content comfortably with good visual clarity. As always, I'll leave the Mobalytics link in the description down below for your reference. If you have any questions or thoughts on the setup, feel free to leave a comment down below. For the past 2 weeks, POE2 has been a collection of focused farming sessions for polishing up this build. But going forward, Chober Chaber via Discipline of Rashta Ascendancy is still on the docket. There are some really interesting mechanics that I'm looking forward to playing with, and that I hope can also be of interest to you guys. A big thanks to those of you who have made it this far into the video. I hope you've enjoyed this update, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, and cheers!